July 4th. No fireworks, just me. Grab a coffee and let's get smarter together. All material things seek both their lowest energy state and to be at an equilibrium with their surroundings. This will only ever be accomplished once every particle has a complete understanding of the physical universe. The required observations for the generation of such a complete and true model, as well as the capacity to store and process the necessary information, will only be gathered once every particle in the universe is joined in one pattern, one collective intelligence. The construction of this one big final pattern happens in steps. There are small patterns, and then there are slightly bigger patterns made up of those small patterns, and so on. It starts out with most basic things joining all over the place. Those elemental structures then come together to form bigger structures, and so on. We know what we think is the beginning. Strings joined to become elemental particles like quarks and bosons. They connected to become protons, electrons, and neutrons. Protons and neutrons became nuclei, electrons joined them to form atoms. Atoms bonded to become molecules, molecules become matter like cells. Cells become plants and creatures. In each step, slightly different mechanisms are used to tie the ever bigger patterns together. One mechanism comes to a limit and a new one needs to be found. For example, the protons and the neutrons of a nuclei of an atom are held together by something called the strong nuclear force. And before you ask, yes, there's a weak nuclear force as well. There are four fundamental forces overall. The two nuclear forces, gravity and electromagnetism. The latter is the reason why the strong force can only hold around 100 protons together. You see, the strong force, while 137 times more potent than the electromagnetic force that makes protons recoil from each other, is an all-or-nothing contact force. Once there are more than 100 protons, the pile gets so big that the outermost protons are so far apart, the strong force switches off. Without it, the outermost protons are repelled because of the electromagnetic force that continues to act on them. From the other protons on the other side, Nature has hit another such moment in which one mechanism, bioelectricity to merge cells, has hit its limits. The line seems to be somewhere in the tens of trillion cells for beings. At the 1/3 mark of it, humans can be found, and with us, obviously, the final goal hasn't been reached. What are 28 to 36 trillion cells in the grand scheme of things? They are really, really small compared to the physical universe. But we seem to carry within us the expression of an idea how the next merging mechanism could look like. But where do we start looking for it? Let's compare what we know about other successful merging mechanisms. We have the strong force that binds quarks into protons and neutrons and holds the nuclei of atoms together. Atoms themselves are as well as molecules and matter are held together by electromagnetism. Cells, bioelectricity, what falls under electromagnetism as well. In all cases, charges are used, what makes sense because electromagnetism lends itself perfectly to quickly transmit information. And what's the info about that is given to the parts? It seems usually to be about the way they should connect to reach as a structure with lowest energy state all material things seek, at least for the moment, for that structure. Consider atomic bonding to shape molecules. Either one atom hands one of its electrons over to another, or two atoms create joint custody of one. Sometimes 2 electrons of each. This keeps them linked. In what angle they will be to each other and at what length, at what distance, isn't something we decide. It will be always a constellation in which the molecular energy is released. What has to do with quantum mechanics and the motion of electrons in the field of a nuclei? The option field of all atoms bonded in one molecule is bent toward such a position. Why? Because the released energy can be used for info storage and processing. What's noticeable is that gravity plays no role in any of these mechanisms. Neither does the weak nuclear force. What could be because this force isn't so much weak as it is rare. Very rare. And we can exclude the strong nuclear force since it has such a limited field of influence that it is far too small to play any role in a mechanism that will tie humans together into a next level structure. We are down to yet another way to apply electromagnetism. And what about the mind, you might ask? Energy flows where the mind goes. I predict this ancient wisdom will show up in whatever way the mechanism will work. Not least because the problem with merging of cells is that they are forced under one will, and that doesn't work after a while. So there has to be a degree of freedom and independence in there. What means start practicing awareness of yourself and the world around you. Explore, also known as think. Make a habit out of thinking. Let's turn thinking into the norm again. Like, comment, share, and follow lest you miss a single opportunity to improve yourself and society. Once you do, we'll meet again at the coffee pot.